Welcome in to the Fantasy Football Power Hour presented by the SBFFC. I am your host, Seth Burchett, joined alongside my partners in crime on Friday night here on the TN2M network of shows, Mr. Chuck Ellis and Dr. Harwood. We are open for comments and all of those good things here on YouTube. We're going to take start them and set them questions. We've already got a few of those. Gentlemen, how's it going tonight?
Very well, sir. How are you gentlemen doing this evening?
I'm what's the old country saying? Finer than frog hair. I'm doing well tonight. Dr. Harwood, you look like you were in a cave somewhere in an undisclosed location, and you are compiling fantasy rankings for the masses, maybe on 3 days of no sleep, and trying to figure out both injury situations and a crazy week of buys. Dr. Harwood, how's it going?
This professional age you quick, guys, and you think this week is something with 6 teams on a bye. You just wait till the playoffs start, buddy.
Yeah,
it's not going to be next man up. It's going to be last man standing. And we've dealt with these injuries for years and years and years, and it's nothing new.
I would argue it's not new. Injuries aren't new, certainly, but I can't remember a year that there's been this many injuries, Chuck.
So many leg injuries. Everybody's getting leg injuries. It's absolutely absurd, and they're not 1-2 week injuries. These are big injuries that have lasting effects. And now you compile these injuries on top of, like Dr. Harwood said, 6 teams on a bye this week, and you're going to be seeing guys in lineups this week. Like Tyler Algier. That he could have a decent fantasy week. He's a guy you're going to have to probably get in your lineup this week.
Yeah, there is a ton that is. You're going to see some crazy lineups, I think, this week, or maybe not crazy across the board, but there'll be 1 or 2 guys that you see in lineups that it's like, I don't know about that, but because of 6 teams on a bye, that's going to make it really, really hard to manage some of these lineups. Luckily, I don't have a ton of issue with that this week. I'm one of the few people I think are fortunate in that. But before we dive into Sunday's games, Dr. Harwood, last night, Minnesota looked like a pedestrian team against the Chargers. What did you think about the game last night?
I felt like there was a website, CBS Sports, that ran waivers later than usual. And there was a guy in the Dynasty League that had Carson Wentz on the waivers and won him. And he was like, well, too late. I had to go to work. I couldn't switch him out. And I was like, well, Carson Wentz only had 11 fantasy points or less. You can find somebody better starting quarterback, you would think. I think now it's going to be finally time for J.J. McCarthy to come back, see what he can do. And Landon McConkey is back. I'm glad to see him back. He's had a couple of good games in a row. Vidal has done really, really well. And Gaston has really been worth the free agent bid money that people are spending. It just seemed like if you had a Charger player that you was rewarded last night. And Minnesota, I think that McCarthy needs to come back. I think he's healthier than people think. I think they're just they're shielding him. And he needs to get back to work.
Well, and I think they need to get him out there just to see what they've got in him, because this is a guy that's not played but a couple of games in 1.5 seasons in the NFL. You don't spend that type of draft capital on a guy to set him on the bench because he's injured every year. If he's even close to being ready just to salvage the season, you've got to throw him out there, see what he's got. At least he's more mobile, because that offensive line is awful. And they need a quarterback back there like McCarthy that can make some plays with his legs, and they simply don't have that right now. Carson Wentz has looked awful, to put it mildly, over the last couple of weeks.
That's being nice about it.
Yeah, I completely agree, guys. And Another thing is the Chargers defense got healthy last night. They got some big boys back last night, and they put a hammer on Mr. Wentz. He definitely looks like a guy whose time passed him. And then a team that has Mason and Aaron Jones returning last night, and your leading rusher, I believe, was Xavier Scott with 16 yards. Man, that's a rough night, fellas. And then, they got Carson Wentz in there. They let Sam Darnold go, who's playing MVP football, to keep. They want to go with McCarthy. Get him in there. What are you afraid of? Let's do this. Let's get him in there. Let's see what he can do, because that offense is really sputtering. They need a boost.
Sputtered's putting it nicely, and really there were only two guys that were worthy of being in lineups last night, just based on how the game progressed. Obviously, Jordan Mason was in a lot of lineups. I imagine Aaron Jones was probably in lineups last night. But really, the only two guys that were worth having in a lineup last night was Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Am I wrong in that assumption? I mean, if you had anybody else on that Vikings team, it was a rough night for you.
Yeah,
yes, agreed. And I don't know if Aaron Jones is the answer or Jordan Mason the answer going forward, but they both sucked.
They really didn't even get an opportunity to play. The game got out of hand way too fast, and it was a massacre. That should be an eye opener. It's time to get McCarthy in there and get this offense jump started.
Yeah, like I said, I just think that they need somebody else in there that is going to be able to make some plays with their legs, because they clearly need that. They need a little bit of help there. Their offensive line is not good. And it's sad if you're a Vikings fan, because they have a good core of skill position players. They have one of the better rosters offensively outside of the offensive line in the NFL. When you factor in the playmakers that they have, it's just difficult to watch. But on the flip side, as Dr. Harwood said, I thought the Chargers looked great. I mean, if you had any piece of that Chargers offense last night, it was a pretty good night for you, or a good start to the week, a week where, again, we have 6 byes this week, and we're going to dive into kind of how to navigate that, some of the injuries and things like that. We also will have a guest on the show in segment 2. Dr. Harwood, who are we going to have on the show tonight?
If you're familiar with Sirius XM Radio's Fantastic Fantasy Football, James Adams is going to be our guest tonight. He's out of Cincinnati, out of that area. He co-hosts a show on Saturdays on Sirius Radio with Dan Claskins. And he got the job. Basically, he had a degree in radio and television for the audition. And he won the Southern Bluegrass Fantasy Football Championship Survivor Pool in 2021. He won 6th place in paying $15,000 in the Millie Maker for the PGA Championship, for the DraftKings daily game. And he's won 2 division titles in the regular season for the SBFFC, and has had a couple top 25 finishes for the SBFFC. And he was at the Scott Fishbowl in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he's also a champion of the Kentucky State Fantasy Football Championship as well. And he's won that league with as well. So he has a lot of fantasy football experience. He has a lot of diverse opinions, and he's going to jump right in with us, and he's going to make the fantasy listeners feel at home, and go be some good stuff tonight.
Yeah, we will have him on in segment 2. So diving into this week in fantasy football, already injury news coming out. One of the big pieces of news that I guess I need to keep up better than I do. I'm guilty of letting life get in the way of fantasy football, because fantasy football is and should be for everybody a top priority. But news coming out earlier today, A.J. Brown out for the Eagles. That is going to elevate a guy like Devonta Smith, who you probably already have in your lineup anyways, but I think that shoots him up the board. He's a potential top 10 receiver this week, is he not?
Yeah, he would have to be. I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, that's and then I think you got to, like you were saying, with all the buys, you could probably even in a flex position maybe slither Jahan Dotson in your lineups.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I actually think the number 2 play from that offense is probably Dallas Goedert. I think he probably gets a few more targets. We know that Hurts really likes him a lot. You're playing against a defense that, let's be honest, isn't great. In the Giants this week, it's a division matchup. It's a division rivalry matchup. And I think that's going to be a high-scoring affair. I don't know what the over is in that game, but I might take it just based on it being a division matchup. And it seems like when those NFC East teams meet, it's always a high-scoring affair. Dr. Harwood, thoughts on the A.J. Brown news?
Well, I was listening to Jeff Mann's Day of Fantasy Guru on Fantasy Alarm and everything. And Jeff Mann thinks that A.J. Brown is hurt, but he's hurt his pride. There's something going on. He's had some kind of a disciplinary issue that's making him not play this week. Jeff Mann's quote is not buying it. That's what his exact quote was. And then there was another gentleman on the show that says that Devonta Smith will go for 100 yards receiving this week. And I've got Devonta Smith ranked 6th in the rankings this week overall under wide receiver. And I've also got Devonta Smith with 72.5 receiving yards over under. That would have been something that A.J. Brown would have had until I found out that he wasn't playing this past week, or not this past week, but this upcoming week. And it really surprises me. It came out of the blue that A.J. Brown wasn't going to play, because he would have been an excellent matchup, because he knows the New York Giants. He knows that he knows the team, knows the system. And the Giants, the second highest rate of man coverage, and he will have, the secondary of New York Giants is banged up. So A.J. Brown's missing a great opportunity here, but when there's, like Eric Bischoff said, when there's chaos, there's opportunity. And that's where Devonta Smith comes in. And I could see myself buying, if you're familiar with a ladder type parlay, betting Devonta Smith at 70 yards, 80 yards, 90 yards, and 100. Because I think he'll reach 100 yards easy. And I got him 6th in the wide receiver rankings. That could have been where A.J. Brown was. But due to circumstances beyond Dr. Harwood's control, he's not going to play.
Well, I know they usually consult you, Dr. Harwood, when they're going to set a guy, and they definitely I don't think they missed that call today, or maybe you missed the call and they just said, AJ, we couldn't get a hold of the good doctor. We've got to set you. Chuck, what does this do for fantasy lineups?
Well, you just have to move. You have to move Devonta Smith up, and you have to really just depend on him. I've blessed on having him in a few leagues. I've got him in the high stakes league Saturday morning with you two guys. We're all going head to head, and this might be a week where I can get that 4 victory points and get back in contention, because it's going to be win 4 points or bust for me. It's got to go balls to the wall.
Well, I got to be honest. He was a guy that I avoided in drafts, and now I kind of wish that I had not because of this news. Yeah. Right now, I will say this, according to FanDuel, so I don't know what preferred sportsbook listeners or watchers have, but according to FanDuel, the prop right now on receiving yards for Devonta Smith is 69.5. I'm going to hammer that after 100%. This news.
Yep. Well, because he's up in the 70s now, I'd probably go ahead and play that before he gets high. And
that number will move.
Yeah,
that's going to be like an X-Lax move. It's going to go up.
Yeah, if you're fortunate enough to get on that prop today or yesterday before the news about A.J. Brown came out, that number is going to go north.
So there you go. If you are watching and you partake, I would go on and get that now, because that number is just going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it gets up to 77.5, 78.5 by the time we get to kickoff on Sunday.
Yep.
And the Giants are 29th against the wide receivers on defense, $6,400 on FanBall. So that's not that expensive.
It's not, and in a fan ball type setting where you have to play 3 receivers, and it's a I don't even think it's a risk. But when you're in a situation like that, Dr. Harwood, and I know you play and have played a lot of daily fantasy, when there's a situation where you've got a guy like that in that situation, everybody's going to have him. Do you jump on that bandwagon and hope the rest of your picks hit, or do you go the other direction and say, well, I know everybody's going to have this guy, so I'm going to hope he doesn't do it as well as everybody thinks, and I'm going to try to find value somewhere else?
That's a good question. And the fan ball, the top 2 teams win the SBFFC team for 2026. You're going up against 29 other people. So if you go against the grain, you better hope the guys you pick instead of Devonta Smith does better. Not necessarily root that Devonta Smith has a bad game, but hopefully who you pick does even better. That's even more of a challenge there. Personally, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick Devonta Smith. I'd rather be one of the guys that's on that bandwagon because I can pick more diverse than anyone else. I've finished 3rd or 4th the last 4 weeks in a row. He's like, haven't won that 1st or 2nd yet due to a couple of fluky plays that could have got it for me. But I think you got to go with who you like. And if you like Devonta Smith, go with him. It's got to be all 9 players has got to play. And fan ball, you can't afford to make a mistake.
Well, I'm going to, while we're talking players, props, and all of that, I'm going to bring in a question from the Wraith, who asked, what are our thoughts on J.K. Dobbins this week? Chuck, J.K. Dobbins going up against the much aligned or maligned Cowboys, a team that is holier than Swiss cheese. What do you think about J.K. Dobbins? Do you like him this week? Where do you have him in terms of, I don't necessarily want to say rankings, but where do you think he falls this week?
Well, if I'm putting all my Denver Broncos in this week against that defense, Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, Mims, Franklin, Ingram, Dobbins, they all going against that defense. I don't have my list in front of me, but I believe I had Mr. Dobbins at 7 this week. I think he's got a great matchup. I think he's got a real good chance to get in the end zone. So I'm expecting 80 to 100 yards from him and a touchdown. I think that's a great start this week.
Dr. Harwood.
With J.K. Dobbins, I mean, you're going to have – I've got him ranked 18th on the week. I've got him ranked above Quishon Junkins because he's playing New England Patriots. Got him ranked above Rico Dowdell. Got him ranked above Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. And I've also got him ranked above Chase Brown. So, and I've also got him ranked above Ramondre Stevenson. So it's about 18th overall. Be good RB2 if you're looking. I could see him vulturing a couple touchdowns and sneaking away from Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton, who I like this week. And I believe that Dobbins is going to – he's not going to be – he won't get 100 yards. He's not going to put up a John Robinson or McCaffrey type numbers. But I think he can be a good serviceable guy that'll get about 15 to 17 easy, and that'll be a successful week.
Well, we've got a question from Outflow. Who are your waiver pickups, and is there anyone you would consider grabbing now to beat the wire next week? I'll give you a guy that I think is available in some leagues this week. I don't know, in an SBFFC type format, maybe not. But I'm in a work league that I picked him up for free on waivers, and that is Jalen Noel, with the idea that Nico Collins may not play this week. Not sure if he's going to clear concussion protocol. It's been one of those days for me today. That he's not cleared concussion protocol and may not without Christian Kirk. They got to have somebody to throw to, and Jalen Noel is still floating around on some waiver wires. If you can get him before Sunday, he's almost a plug-and-play guy for me this week, and a guy that I love in terms of if you're looking for value, if you're looking to steal a guy off the waiver wire, he's a guy that I really like this week. Anybody that you all like this week or somebody you would consider picking up off the waiver wire this week? And did you have any significant pickups this week in any of your leagues?
I would say moving forward for probably the rest of the season, Tej Johnson from Tampa Bay. He's getting targets. Godwin's out again this week. Mike Evans might be done for the season. I like Tej
Luke has
Johnson.
been banged up too.
Yeah, so Tej Johnson, and then a name a lot of people had a little bit higher on their list during the preseason, but kind of just fizzled out. I've been reading some reports that that Jalen Wright is starting to get some carries in practice with the first team. So you might see Miami giving Mr. Wright some carries here in the next couple of weeks. So he might be a guy to look for in the future if you're looking for next week.
Well, and we're bringing Mr. James Adams on here in a minute. He's a proponent of deep league fantasy players because he does a lot of players where you start 10 and you have 12 on the bench and 10 on the bench, like the SBFFC, like the Scott Fishbowl. Also, Christian Kirk he didn't practice again today either. So Jalen Noel, according to Brandon Murchison, Roto Superstar, Woo Fantasy, who's going to be on the show sometime down the road again, lock and load Jalen Noel and Dalton Schultz in your lineup this week. And I definitely think that Noel might get the best target share for wide receivers in that game.
Oh, I 100% believe that. Well, right now, though, we're going to take a break. We are going to pay some love to our sponsor over at Trophy Smack. We'll be back. When we come back, we'll welcome in our guest, James Adams. You're listening to the Fantasy Football Power Hour, presented by the SBFFC on the TN2M network of shows. Here, we'll be right back in a minute after a word from our sponsors. All right, that was a quick word from our sponsor, Trophy Smack. Check them out, trophysmack.com, where you can get all of your fantasy championship needs. Doesn't have to be fantasy football, even though that's what a lot of us play, or most of us play. Baseball, basketball, whatever fantasy sports you play, they've got the hookup for you over at trophysmack.com. They've got trophies, belts, helmets, chains, flags, custom Dr. Harwood massages, whatever that means. They've got everything over there at Trophy Smack. So with that being said, we are going to jump right back into it, and we are going to bring on our guest from SiriusXM, Mr. James Adams. James, thanks for taking some time out tonight and joining us on the show. How's it going?
Doing very good. Appreciate you guys having me. How y'all doing?
Good evening, sir.
Doing well. Your background looks like Seth and Chuck. Y'all might be in the same building together. I mean,
it's collusion, Dr. Harwood.
Oh my goodness. Well, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man. And James, welcome to the show. How's your fantasy season going, buddy?
It's going pretty good. So obviously talking Southern Bluegrass. I'm in the online division. I guess I'd be the 3 seed. I say I should say we, because I share the team with my buddy David Leisure. So we're 5-2. We're second if you look at the standings, but I think by seeding we would be the 3 seed. I've got a couple other good teams, man. I did 3 entries in an RT Sports Superflex tournament, and I had 2 in the top 10 for a little while. One of them has fallen out, but one's still in the top 10. I have one in the top 10 of the main event at Kentucky. I know we're still way far away, but this has been a really good year for me through 7 weeks. I hope I'm not like cursing it. I actually sent a friend a screenshot the other day. I know you're not supposed to do that until it's final. So I hope I didn't curse myself there, but I had a terrible year last year. Like, you know how it is, man. Sometimes you get the players wrong. Sometimes you get the players right and they get hurt. You get some bad luck. I had a really bad last year. I just wasn't a very good fantasy player last year. In fact, I think the online division in Southern Bluegrass might have been the only division I took down. I feel like I've got a chance to hang some trophies this year.
And I know you were really big on the Ted McMillan in the draft. I think y'all drafted him at the beginning of the third round or the end of the third round.
We were the one, so it would have been in the 3-4 swing, yeah.
So I love how you took the chance on him because I did the same thing in the 5th round. And he's built this team around Jalen Hurts and Kamani Vidal, and you've got J.K. Dobbins too.
Yeah.
What's J.K. Dobbins going to do this week?
Oh, I'm more aligned with Chuck. I think that he's in a top 10 running back spot. I mean, as you pointed out, like the Cowboys defense, just absolutely abysmal. And, you know, I heard you guys talking a little bit earlier about like some of the deeper dive, dirty plays that we're going to see in these week 8 lineups with all the buys. I mean, I think 2 running backs from Denver, right? You could make the case that Harvey could just be that garbage time guy, the way I'm kind of looking at Monungai. Maybe not even garbage time, but like you got so many guys on bye that if, you know, you're missing a Gibbs, a Montgomery, a Kyron Williams, maybe some combination of the two, I could see the case for playing a guy like Harvey. If I'm going to make a case for that, I love Dobbins. I think he's a top 10 play this week.
Top 10 play this week. And James knows the depth of fantasy football. He knows who's on the free agent market. He knows the lineup structure. So, and he's also been on Fantistics, Sirius XM radio. He knows how the high stakes, high money leagues, how the trends are going in lineups and free agency. So Harvey and Dobbins in the lineup at the same time. That's interesting.
I don't know that I would want to have them in the same lineup, but like as far as like that, what are you going to do? I need an RB2. I want somebody that's got a chance to get snaps. Harvey could get 10 touches in that matchup against the Cowboys just because the Cowboys are so bad that if you're going to take a stab at a player like that. Now, look, I mean, I would have Harvey, clearly outside of the top 25 at running back, even with 8 teams on or 6 teams on bye. But if you're taking a stab, if you're like desperation play, I think he makes sense just given the defense you're playing. And I think the same thing, kind of with Monungai in Chicago against that Baltimore defense.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I like if you're going for a stretch this week, I like Tyler Algier play. Yeah, so I think
that's another one of those RB2s on his team that could be worth a play this week. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, James, this week 6 teams on bye for listeners or watchers here on YouTube that are watching now or might watch this before kickoff on Sunday. What advice do you have to players trying to manage a week like this where so many key players are on a bye week? How do you manage that as a fantasy owner? What tips do you have for people that maybe aren't as experienced as many of us who have played for years and years?
I mean, it might be a hindsight tip, like be aware of it ahead of time. Like at this point, if you're really in bye week hell, and I have a team where I am, I think we all maybe have a little bit of an arrogance to us when we're drafting, and you go, all right, whoever has me in week 8 is going to get the win. I'll be 7-0 when I play him in week 8. Then you get here and you're 4-3, and you're like, dang, if I don't win this week, now I'm 4-4. I got 4 guys on bye. This isn't how I saw this playing out. So maybe the best piece of advice is don't get here to begin with. But once you do, again, it's probably hindsight, because I would have said, you just had a person asking about waiver moves for next week. And it always makes, this is a good time to look ahead because so many people are stuck in this week that you'll be the only one looking ahead. Did you look ahead last week? And, obviously you couldn't forecast injuries. You didn't know Monungai was going to break out, but you did know that he was going to have this matchup against a bad Baltimore team. So it would be those things that don't necessarily help now because it's hindsight. As for this week, you look at your opponents. I mean, you always want to set your best lineup. You don't want to think too much about your opponent. But there's 6 teams on bye for your opponent's roster too. So you might well be facing your opponent might be facing these same difficult decisions. And if you think your lineup's pretty good, we'll take Southern Bluegrass. He's like, okay, my number 2 flex doesn't feel very good, but I like the rest of my team. Look at what your opponent's putting up on the board against you. maybe you don't sweat it that much. Maybe you go look for a guy like a Tyler Algier that you mentioned, Chuck, who has good floor, and you go, okay, I think he's going to have, I think they could, I don't know, they're both going to run for 100 yards, but you could see it just run for Atlanta. And you go, okay, I'm going to go reach for a guy that has a floor there instead of going, hey, let me make a play at Keon Coleman, who most weeks is going to be somebody you wish you didn't play, but he probably has more upside because he could catch a couple long balls from Allen and put up a big number. But Algier has a better floor. Maybe you're looking for the better floor, or maybe your opponent's a favorite by 20 points. Then maybe you're looking for the upside. Don't be afraid to look and see what you need versus your opponent.
And don't be afraid to cock block your opponent as well.
On waivers, never. No, yeah,
absolutely.
Well, when you're talking about, you mentioned looking ahead, and one of the questions I want to ask you, James, is: are there players potentially on the waiver wire that fantasy owners can go target now that might get or work their way into some playing time because of the trade deadline? Trade deadline's coming up. There are names that have been thrown out there. I know Breece Hall's one I've seen thrown around quite a bit. Are there guys out there that maybe are on the waiver wire that you say, okay, I'm going to try to stash this guy this week just in case the guy ahead of him or one of the guys ahead of him gets traded? Is there anybody in some of these deeper leagues that fantasy owners can be looking at or potentially target?
I mean, in the leagues I'm in that are, Southern Bluegrass or something akin to that, I don't know that there's a whole lot on the waiver wire. I mean, I'm still rostering like Tesla from Detroit, and I don't really find a player that I want to replace him with, even though if Jamison Williams isn't getting looks, I'm not sure he's ever going to get any looks, and Laporta's not getting enough looks. So I don't really feel like he's worth that 20th spot on my roster, but I don't really have anybody ahead of him. So, I mean, you bring up a good point about, if a guy's getting traded. I think you're always looking at either handcuffing your own running back or looking at a situation, whether, again, it's always hindsight, but it's this concept that you would want to think about, like Devin Neal, a player in New Orleans. You're looking for that kind of player where Kendry Miller went down. So maybe the RB2 has gone down on a team, and you're looking to pick up the RB3 because you never know when all of a sudden Vidal is now gone from RB3 to the starting running back. So a name, I don't know that I have a name for you. If I had them, they'd be on my roster instead of Tesla.
Right.
But having said that, I think it's that concept that you're talking about that makes a lot of sense.
Well, Dr. Harwood, anybody that you like potentially in that situation as well? Because I agree, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, it's his first year in the SBFFC, and one of the comments he made to me, he was worried about bidding on his draft spot, and he said, and I think they spent $400 or so. They went out of slot one. And in waivers, he basically has made the comment to me this year that, hey, there's nobody out there on waivers. Next year, I'm going to draft exactly where I want and spend exactly how much it takes to get there, because if I draft my team correctly, I'm not going to have to worry about waivers as much. And this year, I think more than any that I've experienced in deeper leagues like the SBFFC, there's not been guys really on the waivers this year. I mean, the biggest name maybe has been Quentin Johnston that a lot of people picked up after week one, but most guys have been rostered, and people are holding them in hopes that, there's an injury and they get to plug that guy in a lineup for a week or two.
Well, I like if you want a deep wide receiver this week, I'm trying to figure whether to play Alec Pierce or Keon Coleman. My rankings say play Coleman, but the heart says play Pierce because he can go off against the Titans at home. So Alec Pierce is a guy I picked up off waivers, and Devin Neal, Alvin Kamara run like Fred G. Sanford. He might be the next guy to get traded or go down.
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe Devin Neal is the target if he's out there. We're going to start and send questions here in just a minute. But before we get to that, and before we get to our next break, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
As always, since the last 3 weeks, you've always got something on your mind. You've got something serious on your mind.
Well,
is it this week that you have for us in our serious talk?
Well, I have a couple things on my mind, but since we're talking about running backs, I want to go on a slight rant and tirade about the way coaches are using these two-back systems right now. I know two-back systems are becoming a thing, but let's pick on Seattle, for example, right now. I mean, these guys, they'll have Ken Walker run a play, and then Charbonnet will come in on the next play and run. And these guys can't get any continuity out there. They can't get any game flow. I mean, you have a running back makes a run. He has to get up off the ground. He has to run to the sideline. And then the other running back has to run into the game. Then the referees stop the game so the defense can substitute. There's no flow. And now you're getting these guys in there getting 8 or 9 carries apiece, and they can't get anything going. You know, if you're going to do the two-back system, let's let these guys, one guy play between the 20s, another guy come in and play in the red zone, or alternate series. Don't alternate plays. I believe it's hurting your offense, and you're making Seattle one-dimensional. And I just think eventually the defenses are going to figure this out, and they are. They're stopping Seattle's run. Seattle's winning the game throwing the ball. Let's get back to playing old school football. Smash these guys up in there, run play action, and protect Darnold. If Darnold gets hurt, that team is finished.
I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more. And by the way, is there a more frustrating backfield than Seattle this year?
No.
Oh gosh. I mean, Kenneth Walker, I thought this the year was going to break. He's had a couple of good games, but then they've got Charbonnet. You know, sounds like a cheap wine and that's getting carries for no reason. James, what do you see in this Seattle going forward? I mean, because it's a long season away, and Seattle is in contention for a possible playoff spot. What are they going to do out there?
Well, hopefully they keep throwing it to the number 24 overall pick in the online division, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's on my team. But that's not happening this week, and it's not the answer to this question. I mean, Chuck, you're right, dude, because last year the situation was awesome, right? It was Kenneth Walker, and when he didn't play, I think there was – I'm going to guess he missed 4 weeks. 3 of those weeks, Charbonnet was awesome. 1 week he was a letdown. But it was like the premier running back situation of all 32 teams when it came to a handcuff. Like, you had to pay up for Charbonnet in drafts this year because he was one of the, he was a top 40 running back. So he was one of the highest RB2s on his team, maybe after David Montgomery. Might have been the number 2. And it's been quite the opposite this year where Charbonnet, he'll come in and he'll be the goal line vulture. But, dude, especially in a PPR, are you going to start a guy in a normal week that's just a goal line vulture? No, but you don't want to start Walker because he doesn't get the touchdowns. And I mean, just going back to, good Lord, back in the mid-'90s when I was playing high school football, I played offensive lineman. I don't want to come out of the game. I know these guys don't want to come out of the game. You're talking about not getting into a flow. It's exactly right. Like, it's one thing to sub out after – if a series ends up being 10 plays, okay, the running back doesn't play all 10 plays, but in and out every play, I don't get with it. And it worked so well for Seattle last year that it's just kind of confounding why they're doing it this year, but they are, and you got to deal with it. I don't have any good teams that are relying on the Seattle running back room, I can tell you that.
Well, from a offensive line perspective, I mean, I know that doesn't factor into fantasy, but former offensive line here myself, when you've got 2 running backs, especially if they play different styles, you almost have to block differently. And you have to be aware of who's in the backfield, what do they like to do, how do they like to cut, what's their running style. And that speaks to the continuity that Chuck was talking about, that, for an offensive line perspective, you have to block differently sometimes for different running backs based on their style.
Yeah, is it Le'Veon Bell who wants to sit back there and read, and find the hole? Or is it like Christian Okoye who's going to get the ball and he's going to run you over if you're in the way? It's absolutely not suggesting that Walker and Charbonnet are those 2 guys, just 2 guys I pulled out of the hat randomly. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there are different styles of running back, and there's different ways that they hit the hole. And there's, Are you trying to get this guy just off balance that you're attacking as an offensive lineman? Or do you need to hold the block for 2 seconds while the running back makes a read? It is a different animal.
Yeah, it certainly is. But I'll tell you what's not a different animal. Well, actually, they are, because they are the premier for all of your fantasy trophy needs. We're going to take a quick break here and pay some love to our sponsor, Trophy Smack. You are listening or watching the Fantasy Football Power Hour, presented by the SBFFC on the TN2M network of shows. We'll be back in a minute after a word from our sponsors. That is Trophy Smack. Check them out, trophysmack.com. They've got all of your fantasy sports championship needs, trophies, rings, flags, helmets, chains, custom visits from Dr. Harwood. Just whatever you need, they've got it there at trophysmack.com. So check them out, and we certainly do thank them for sponsoring the show here on the TN2M network of shows, Fantasy Football Power Hour. I'm going to have to get that and just hit a play button, because that's getting wordy. Dr. Harwood, we're wordy here. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Well, with the Trophy Smack has got some – I'm thinking about getting an SBFFC flag to fly around next year. They're selling those now. And I was telling you, I got the SBFFC helmet. I've got the SBFFC decal logo. James, have you been to Las Vegas where the FFPC has their – and Chuck, you too – with the FFPC has like their championship helmet on display? Did you guys see that out there in Vegas?
I was out there, but I don't remember seeing it. I wasn't looking for it either. I was trying to keep Brandon Fox in line.
The 1 year I played FFPC, I won my way in, and I did it online. I do Big Gorilla. They're like smaller contests now. I've not drafted in Vegas. I've only been out there once. I'm not really a big Vegas guy, quite frankly.
I have a confession to make. Matt Cranston.
It's a family show, Dr. Harwood. I just want to throw that out there. It's a family show.
Well, we the judge said that Cranston and I can return to Vegas together in 2028. That's all I'm gonna say about Vegas there. So the judge in Vegas said we can return in 2020 together. But Trophy Smack, I love the helmet, and I'm thinking about giving that away to a trophy winner next year, or kind of have a side turn. It's really, really cool. It's a legit football size regulation NFL helmet. You got the SBFFC decals on it. It looks great. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, let's get to some stardom setting questions. We don't have a ton this week, but we will run through what we have. And the first one I think is a no-brainer, but I'm going to throw it up there. The rate says Devonta Smith or Rome Odunze. James, you're the guest this week. We'll start with you. Who do you like here? I'm assuming it's PPR, but I don't know that. But who do you like out of these two?
It doesn't matter. You can't trust anything in the Chicago passing game right now, and you guys already hit the nail on the head with this game probably going over, even if A.J. Brown was playing. By the way, I think the total – I looked while you guys were talking about the total. I think it's 43.5 or 44. For Eagles-Giants. I would have thought maybe a little higher based on Thursday night a couple weeks ago and all the defensive players injured. I think it's Devonta Smith pretty easily in this situation. But I get it because I have him on a roster, and there have been some really lean weeks from Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Devonta Smith. Now, if A.J. Brown plays, I think it's a different conversation. But I think it's Devonta Smith, and I don't even think it's close out of these two this week. Chuck.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's Devonta Smith. Like James said, that Chicago passing game is Jekyll and Hyde every week. You don't know what you're going to get. I know Odunze's had a few bad weeks, but I have to go with Smith.
Well, also, too, Ray, do you have anybody that's less talented than Smith or Odunze? Maybe you can play them both, because I've got Smith ranked 6th in the rankings on this week. But Rome Odunze, I've got him ranked 13th. So I think there's somebody, Ray, that you can play both guys for.
See,
instead
but here's the thing, Dr. Harwood, I hate to interrupt you. You might have Rome Odunze 13th. I think you just need to replace that with a Bears receiver might be 13th, but you don't know which one it's going to be. I mean, it could be Odunze, it could be DJ Moore, it could even be like Luther Burden, who got some love a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you just don't know who it's going to be over there. I just don't know that you could like say with confidence that it's going to be Rome Odunze that's that high. Now, it could be. It absolutely could be. But I agree with James on this, where you just don't know who to play in that passing game in Chicago. It's been good. They've been good offensively, but they really have spread that ball around quite a bit.
Well, Doomsday is more consistent as of late. Luther Burden hadn't proven much to me except for one game. DJ Moore, I can't trust him. He's in and out. He's flaky. At least at Doomsday, at least you got a young guy that you know what you're getting compared to these other two. But I would play Smith over Doomsday. If you had to bench one of them, bench a Doomsday. I think that Wraith's got some other players that he can play Doomsday 04. Maybe Wraith is watching and maybe he can post a follow-up question on this. But the Bears are inconsistent, but I like Doomsday Bear a lot better than I do more and Luther Biggs, Luther Reigns, Luther Burden. So I mean,
well, Dr. Harwood, there's a special question here just for you, I think. I assume this is just for you in Chuck's league, but I'm going to throw it up there. Is there any way you're trading Dak or Scattaboo? Let's talk.
James, I'll tell you what, I love his Albert Flo to death. Albert Flo, he's a really great guy, and he wanted Vidal from me last night. And I'm like, hey, Albert, I'm playing Vidal today. I'm playing him. Like, I don't want to trade guys that I'm actually playing in the lineup. So I said, well, I'll trade Pacheco or I'll trade another running back that's down the list that I'm not playing. And I'm glad I played Vidal because he did really, really good. I drafted Scatterbo to play him to see how this turns out. I also drafted Prescott because I've got CD Lamb as a combo to throw to, and I had some trade offers, including a couple from Chuck for CD Lamb. But Dak Prescott and CD Lamb they're the cream of the crop. Why would I trade them right now? I mean, why shake up a possible championship run here just for the sake of trading?
You should never trade for the sake of trading. And we talked about the Cowboys defense being so bad. Like, that's great for Dak Prescott. If you're a fantasy guy, like, is it great for Dak? Maybe not, because he's not going to win games, but it's great for having him on fantasy lineups. So, you're always looking to upgrade, and it's okay to trade a guy you're using. If you're going to get back a player you would replace him with that you feel better about and use some depth, but you never just make a trade to trade. I know some people that do, but you shouldn't.
Don't trade if you're bored. Go read a book.
That's correct. Yeah, go read a book or play a video game or whatever you do. Don't trade just because you're bored.
Now Flores, I'll tell you who he can trade me that's on his team. I mean, his great players, I mean, he's got Daniel Jones and CJ Stroud and Matt Stafford. They're not as good as Prescott. And running backs, he's got Rashard White, he's got Kyron Williams. He even flirted with the opportunity of trading Jamar Gibbs.
Yeah, he's been floating Gibbs around all week.
And why would you want to trade Gibbs? He came off an awesome game Monday night. I mean, do you think he's looking to sell while he's hot? Or
well, the problem with that statement, Dr. Harwood, I think, not that anybody asked me, but is you're not selling Gibbs while he's hot. He's kind of always hot. That's why you drafted him third, fourth, fifth, wherever you got him.
Exactly.
That's not like a sell high type thing. He's always going to be really good. That's why he's a top 5 pick in most leagues.
Now, I could go for like a Jones and Pittman combo, but that's not as good as Prescott and Lamb. I'm going to need more than that, you think?
Yes. So this show has turned into let's help Dr. Harwood make a trade. It's let's make a deal. Come on down, folks. That's Price is Right. I'm getting my game shows confused.
The first lady of fantasy football, Christy Ellis, says agree, don't trade just to trade. And I think trading is sometimes I'm happy with my squad. I mean, because I've got Scatterboo, I've got Junkins, at the running back position. I've got some young talent in there that I really, really like.
Yeah, I will say Harwood definitely drafted a second half team, and on paper, his team looks very strong right now.
And I'm coming off a first place overall finish in
Yes,
that league
sir.
last week. Now, James, I'm gonna kind of fill you in. It's a 10-team super flex league,
I
and
like Superflex.
so it's a super flex roster. So it's hard to in a 10-team league. It's kind of hard to really trade guys because you don't want to gamble of what you got to lose what you have because I think I've won 4 in a row or 3 in a row. I started 1-3 or 0-3, but I mean I've got Vidal at the running back position too. I mean I drafted running backs later, as you all can tell, because I went for Jalen Hurts and Ted McMillan, got Jake Ferguson. Vidal had 20 points last night. I mean, he's at a high value now as well. I just like the dynamic of my team. I just love it. I love my team right now.
I agree. It's very good.
Well, it's good to have depth.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like if you've got depth in between bye weeks, injuries are always coming. I think I get there's a couple guys that'll like tweet me and what they want to make trades all the time, and sometimes I tell them like it's okay to have those points on your bench too. Like it's okay that your opponent didn't have those points, and yeah, they didn't count towards your starting lineup, but they didn't count towards anyone else's.
Exactly.
And now you've got a lot of security blankets for when you get to whether it's tough matchups. You get to the championship matchup, and all of a sudden, whether Hampton's back and you don't want to play, you can't play Vidal anymore, or it's a really bad matchup and you're afraid of him against the Broncos. I don't even know when they play the Broncos again, but I'm just throwing that out there. Like it's okay to have some points on your bench. I'd much rather be making decisions where I don't play the guy that scored 20 and still play the guy that scored 10 versus I made all my trades. Now I'm stars and scrubs and one of my stars gets hurt and now I'm forced to start scrubs.
That's exactly right. And I've got a lot of later bye weeks as well. So I'm still trying to, I don't want to shake up the dynamic just to move things around. Now, I do want to ask you guys this. Aaron Rodgers' outlook this week, the revenge game. He's been looking pretty decent, guys. What do y'all think?
I don't know how he's playing as well as he is. I have thought his time has passed, and yet here he is, and he's still making plays. I think he is mostly a matchup play. If he's playing a good matchup, you could potentially plug him in. And revenge game narrative people love, but that Green Bay defense is something special this year. I mean, it's a potential Super Bowl winning defense. I just don't know that I buy into the revenge game narrative right now with that defense playing the way it is.
Well,
go look at the numbers, like the Rodgers stat lines. He had a 4-touchdown performance in week 1, and he had a 4-touchdown performance in week 7. I was at the week 7 game, and I vaguely remember it, to be quite frankly, Thursday night in Cincinnati. The whiteout was awesome. But he hasn't really – like you're not looking at a big stat line. Even the week Warren was hurt, it was 100-plus yards from Kenny Gainwell. Like the defense hasn't been as good. They've had to throw the ball. Obviously, he had the huge 9 on Thursday night a week ago, but he's not throwing for 250 yards a lot. So it's going to need to be 3 touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers to be, I think, even considered a top 12 quarterback with 6 teams on bye. And the Green Bay defense is good too. Like I don't see Aaron Rodgers as a play most weeks in a 1-quarterback 12-team league.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, James. If you watch any of the Steelers games, like you're saying, there's a lot of rack. There's a lot of run after the catch. He's not throwing nothing deep. Everything's short to intermediate. The receivers are breaking long runs for him, and he's basically a touchdown-dependent quarterback right now. I completely agree with you. If you have other options this week, I would not start him against Green Bay.
I would start Joe Flacco over Rodgers. I would start C.J. Stroud over Rodgers. I would even start Cam Ward over Aaron Rodgers this week, and Marcus Mariota for that matter.
Well, this is a really good question coming in from Joe. He needs help, and with this question, I would say maybe you're in a tough spot this week. Need to start in a flex, Rashid Shaheed or Isaiah Pacheco. Who do you like this week?
That's a tough one. Shaheed is kind of boom or bust. And then Brashard Smith is starting to get a little hot in Kansas City. But Pacheco is playing the Commanders, who's got a little bit of defensive woes. So I would say for me it would be Pacheco, just because he'll probably get more touches than Shaheed will get targets.
James, what's your answer on this one?
If Rashid Shaheed is boomer bust, Isaiah Pacheco is bust or bust. Now, I know he scored a touchdown last week. He hasn't looked very good all year. There's a reason that we keep seeing Patrick Mahomes as the leading rusher for the Chiefs when we watch these games. Hunt had been the goal line guy. Pacheco got the touchdown last week. Again, Pacheco is one of those players that I drafted a handful of times because he was, I probably have 20 leagues where I'm setting lineups. Like I'm invested. I don't really have any good teams with Pacheco. He hasn't done a lot for me. He has to score. Now, I get it. Shaheed might only catch 4 or 5. Shaheed has the Bucks. I think the Bucks put up some points. I think there's more points to be had. I go Shaheed. I'm very biased. Pacheco has been very bad for me this year.
I think I like Shaheed here because I think his ceiling is much higher. I also think in a situation like New Orleans, they don't have a ton of weapons. I mean, obviously Olave and Kamara probably the two best options on that team, but after that, there's not a ton going on. Whereas you've got a lot of mouths to feed in Kansas City, and Pacheco has not been one of them this year. So I would probably play Shaheed. I don't love the Bucs matchup, but I do think there's probably going to be a little bit more opportunity to, have a huge play for Shaheed in that game. And it's like every 3 or 4 weeks, and he's due for a big play. He's not had one in 3 or 4 weeks. So I would say Shaheed here. But I don't love either of these options, if I'm being honest.
Well, Shaheed can get a big play and take it to the house for 40-yard reception. Pacheco can't do that. Every time I hear about Pacheco, I hear a toilet bowl flushing in my head. At least Shaheed can get a big play and go to the house. Breece Hall, moving forward.
Yeah, so Jay Johnson, who I've not seen comment, so welcome in if you're new.
Double J.
Yeah, Double J. Says, thoughts on Breece Hall moving forward. Can you start him with any confidence? Thanks in advance for the answer. Well, thank you for taking the time to check in with us, Jay. I don't know what J stands for. Maybe it's just Jay. But either way, guys, what do you think about Breece Hall? Can you start him with any confidence moving forward in your lineups?
Why not? I've got him ranked 11th this week on running back.
I just think he's been this year he's been the guy that I've got a lot of stock in Breece Hall. And he has been one of the bigger disappointments on my team. And some of that has been because Braylon Allen earlier in the year. But even without that, they don't have a lot of options, and it almost feels like a situation where teams are just keying in on the run because they know they're not going to throw the ball, or they haven't, at least not with Fields. And they dig a hole, they get behind, and they just they're not running the ball as much. I'm not sure how much you can start Breece Hall. Now, maybe, if he's your RB2, you draft him as an RB2 or he's one of your flex positions, you might not have a choice. But he's been one of the bigger disappointments to me this season based on where a lot of people draft him. I draft him, I think, in the 4th round in a couple of leagues. So I think based on where you took him, he's been one of the bigger disappointments. Can you start him moving forward? I don't know. You might have to. But do you think his outlook looks up? Maybe that's what this question is asking is his outlook any better going forward because they're bad? Or maybe he gets traded. I don't know. Sorry, I went on a Breece Hall rant. I did not mean to.
Now, James, he's playing your Bengals this week. So we got a Browns fan, a Ravens fan, a Well, that's my team's not important, but Bengals, they're playing.
Did you say Ravens? Wait, Chuck, did you become? Are you a Ravens fan too?
I mean,
No,
Commander. Excuse me.
I was gonna say.
I was
I
thinking.
thought we just had the Joe Flacco team going.
Yeah, that works for me.
So what's Breece Hall going to do against the Bengals this week?
I don't know. I don't know because again, the Jets, they're really beat up. They're beat up on defense too. No Sauce Gardner, I believe. So is Breece Hall going to be running the ball with backup quarterback and no receiving game? There's no Garrett Wilson. I mean, what did the Jets offense do last week? Nothing. The Bengals defense stinks. That's a fact for sure. But I mean, when you've got what are your keys as a Bengal defender? Make sure Breece Hall doesn't do anything, and you're going to win the game pretty handily. So they're all going to be on him. Now, Chuck talked about Aaron Rodgers getting all that yards after catch stuff. That happened a lot last week because the Bengals couldn't tackle anyone. So maybe Breece Hall breaks 5 tackles a run, and that could happen. You're playing him this week against the Bengals. Hopefully it's in a PPR and he gets a couple dump-offs if not. The outlook looking forward, though, when do they get Miami again? Because the team's not any good, and there's no one to take the pressure off of them. It was kind of a bad build to start with that they had Garrett Wilson and no one else. I mean, when we're talking about Josh Reynolds being on the fantasy radar again because he just keeps finding himself in that position where he's going to get some playing time. And kudos to Josh Reynolds for having a career doing that. God bless the man. But as a fantasy guy, you're I don't want anything to do with this. Why isn't there another receiver? I don't know if Justin Fields is any good or not, but they didn't give him a whole lot to work with. And they also didn't give Breece Hall a lot of opportunity not to see a loaded box when there's nothing in the pass game besides Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, James. That team is a dumpster fire, and it starts at the top. It starts at the head. It starts at the GM, trickles down to the coach. They got problems everywhere. I think this week with so many buys, he probably has to start Breece Hall. But I agree with you. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm stopping Breece Hall and go ahead and beat me somewhere else. You're going to throw it to your rookie tight end all day? And they haven't even named a starter at quarterback yet, so you don't even know who's playing quarterback this week. It's a mess. It's a mess. I think the Bengals actually handled them this week.
I hope so.
Well, you mentioned the rookie tight end. I want to make this comment, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. I feel bad for Mason Taylor. I just feel bad for him because he's a talented player that's on a terrible team, and fantasy owners have tried to talk him up and start. Some teams have started him who are struggling at the tight end position, and I think he's in the same situation as Breece Hall. Teams know, okay, they don't really have anybody to throw to except this one tight end and a running back, and that's what we're just going to make sure they don't beat us, and everything else is going to be fine. And that's kind of the season for the Jets. Hopefully there are no Jets fans watching. And if you are, my condolences. I'm a Browns fan, so I get it every year. It's terrible. I became a Browns fan in 1999, and it's the worst decision I've ever made. So there we go. Guys, final thoughts for the night. Let's end on this. Give me a prop or a player that you really like this week in the games. James, we'll start with you. Who's either a prop bet, somebody you think that's going to smash their prop, or just a player in general you really like this week that may be, I don't want to say under the radar, but not your traditional, first round picks?
So full disclosure, I don't really do any of the gambling stuff. I heard you guys mention laddering. I think Doc was mentioning the ladder bet. I thought I was all smart, and I made my first bet last week. I did a ladder on the over of the Bucks Lions. Never even sniffed the over of the original bet, much less the plus money bets. So I went ahead and gave away that $50. So I don't have any props. I like playing my fantasy lineups. I gamble on golf. That's really my only gambling. So maybe we get to talking golf next spring. We can talk gambling. But for me, it's just players. And I like Kyle Monunga. I mentioned him earlier. I mean, I know that he's easy to call out because of hindsight. He had the big week last week. But this Bears team, I don't really trust Caleb Williams. I'm interested to see if we do get Lamar Jackson. If you get Lamar Jackson, maybe that means they have to throw the ball more, meaning the Bears, because I do think the Bears are going to win this game without Lamar, With Lamar, it's a different animal. But I think that Chicago showed they want to do like the Ben Johnson offense that they want to run does mean they want Caleb Williams to be good at quarterback. But the dual running back system, I think we saw play in effect last week. And I think we're going to see more of that. And I think the key to them beating Baltimore is probably just to beat up that defense. So I like Kyle Monungai. If you're like scraping the wire in shallower leagues, he's definitely not going to be on the waiver wire in Southern Bluegrass, though.
Chuck, a player that you really like or a prop?
Well, this week with so many buys, I think a guy that could be interesting if you think about it differently is you go down to New Orleans, you got Alvin Kamara as a running back, and I know a lot of us, including myself, picked up Devin Neal this week, but I don't know. I think with Taysom Hill back, you might see him get 8 or 10 plays out of the backfield, and he might actually be the number 2 running back per carries this week, and you could probably slide him in your lineup as a tight end this week and score some decent points there. So I kind of like Taysom Hill this week to get some carries out of the backfield.
You know, Taysom Hill, FJFantasy.com had his sticker at the right position this year. I remember last year, people were worried to death. Well, can we use this guy at quarterback? Can we use this guy at quarterback? I'd rather be the nicest guy in prison than use Taysom Hill at quarterback.
Wow.
That took me a second.
I mean, Cliff Dean was like, "Hey, Cat Daddy, I got Taysom Hill ranked in the top 200 at quarterbacks. Can I use the quarterback?" He's like, "Oh, yes, you sure can, Cat Daddy." Good night. Taysom Hill quarterback.
What?
This is the wrong sticker. You know, I had to get up, make a big announcement about that, and 300 some people in the draft room, and about 5 of them listened to me. And Taysom Hill.
It's tough being in charge, Doc. It's tough being in charge.
Well, I'm trying to give away that responsibility to, the Van Player and Christie and all that. But
well, I'm going to throw. I like the prop and I like the player this week. I like Jalen Noel a lot this week, especially if Nico Collins does not play. I don't think he will. The prop on that's over 3.5. I would take that because I think he's going to be a guy that they're going to target quite a bit without Nico Collins. And I think he's a sneaky play this week. If you're having some bye week blues, Collins likely going to be out. I think Noel's the guy that you could play in a flex position and be okay and survive a week.
Now, Jalen Noel, his prop is 36.5 receiving yards. Do we bet over?
I'm sticking with receptions because I think he's getting targets. I don't know how many yards he gets, but I think he's getting targets for sure. But if you're getting targets, you're probably getting yards, so you're probably safe doing the over on both. That's going to do it for us tonight.
Let me get my prop. Excuse me.
Okay. Oh yeah. Hold on. I thought you had thrown that one out there, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was trying to tell Chuck to cancel the Taysom Hill prop, but I got 2 props. I got a touchdown prop, anytime touchdown, and then I got a quarterback prop. Quarterback prop, Cam Ward. I got him at 199.5 passing yards. I've got the over against the Colts this week, divisional game. I think the Titans are they've got a new vision. I think Cam Ward, will get about 225 and passing yards. And here's a name that kind of blow up. He's been injured for the last couple of weeks. George Kittle, plus 185, DraftKings, anytime touchdown. Book it.
All right. Take it to the bank. You heard it here first, or at least now. That's going to you take it to the pay window, if you will. That's going to do it for us tonight. Special thanks to James Adams for hanging out with us tonight. We'll have you on again sometime soon. Greatly appreciate you taking time out to come on with us. Where can people hear you at regularly?
Well, first of all, I love all the wrestling references, and yes, I will. Tomorrow morning, or depending on when you're listening to this, Saturdays, 12 to 2 Eastern, Fantistics Insider Football on SiriusXM Sports Fantasy Channel 87 or 210, depending on what you got.
All right. Well, check out Jason on SiriusXM tomorrow from 12 to 2. For Chuck, for James, for Dr. Harwood, I'm Seth Burchett. You've been listening to the Fantasy Football Power Hour here presented by the SBFFC on the TN2M network of shows.
Good evening. Have a good night.